Iguodala to Curry, back to Iguodala, up for the layup. Oh, blocked by James. It's over. It's over. Cleveland is a city of champions once again. The Cavaliers are NBA champions.
That sound means it's time for Cavs in the Break NBA podcast, part of the Press Play Podcast Network. I am your host, Chase Smith, and with me, he covers your Cleveland Cavaliers for Sports Illustrated, the one, the only Sam Amico. Sam, how have you been, my man? Let's talk.
I've been pretty good because I finally am able to write about the NBA again now that it's restarted. The draft lottery, of course, it concerns Cavaliers fans, is coming up. And after that, we'll have the draft in October. It's like I really never had an off season.
It is so nice to have the NBA back, and the playoff picture starting to take shape. We are seeing social media feuds between players. It's almost like we're back in March, but we're August NBA basketball. Sam, this is just weird. Are you used to it yet?
No. I have to keep reminding myself that it's August, and not like, late May. This is just, it's strange because, the seasons, by the time the season's over, if all goes well, it's going to end in October, the middle of October, which is usually when I'm in the middle of preseason stuff. So it's been a strange time, but it's kind of cool. If you're an NBA fan, you do have some basketball again.
Seeing highlights. It's just nice personally to see sports in whatever capacity, and the NBA is doing it right. No positive COVID cases, same as the NHL. It seems like the bubble seems to be an effective way to limit exposure and keep all the players safe and everything. Sam, I got to say, I saw I've loved the product, at least the NBA has been able to produce during this time. I think the games are great. I've really enjoyed them. They mic'd up Boban for the Mavs the other night. That video, that highlight smash up of all of his words.
Right. Yeah.
One of the most wholesome videos I've seen on the internet in the past 5 years. It was so good.
It's been neat. And I've kind of and trying to follow just a few teams, and the games that I've watched of those teams, I'm entertained, whether you have a rooting interest or not. The Lakers, I've been entertained. The team I've watched the most, today was the first game I've missed, is the Rockets. I've been watching a lot of them because these are, they play that kind of wide open, exciting style. Yep. And I kind of watching the Pacers a little bit too, because they're the team in the Midwest now that the Cavs aren't there. So
yeah,
and TJ Warren's been fantastic. So the teams that I've been following, I've thoroughly enjoyed it and thoroughly enjoying the basketball. I don't know if it's because the basketball is so cool or because I just, we didn't know that it was going to come back, and here it is.
Yeah. Who has won the bubble so far? Pick a player or a team. Who would you say has won the bubble?
Devin Booker and the Phoenix Suns. I mean, they're 7-0 at this recording. So with one game to go, and, I think a lot of people thought they were going to be like the Wizards. They were just going to kind of show up and, move along. But the Suns have been the best story since the season restart. And
did you see their how they introed their players tonight?
I didn't see that. No,
they had the starting 5 players' families video.
Oh yeah, I did see that. The families introduced somebody from each member of the starting 5 family. Yeah, that was neat, and they were surprised by that. The players didn't know they were going to do that. So that was neat, and they've been a great story all season. Monty Williams has done a great job there in his first year. They've really turned that situation around.
Yep. I think you also have to look at Dame
Yes,
Lillard has continued to produce. Luka has solidified himself as a top NBA talent, even though people knew that, but just now against the best competition, still producing. The Rockets' efficiency. I mean, all these things that we've known going into the bubble has, it's been fun. Well, hey, let's talk about the Cavs, Sam, because this is
let's
Cavs
do
on
that.
the break, not bubble on the break. and everyone who listens just wants to hear what's going on. The Cavs obviously not in the bubble, but they're still in the headlines, Sam. And I, for one, cannot be more excited. Friend of the show, Chris Fedor, said that in an article that the Sixers might be moving on from Ben Simmons. This could be an opportunity. Simmons is out for the rest of the playoffs with an injury, and this could help solve some problems, answer some questions the Sixers have. And the Cavs might be one of the teams who can offer maybe some of the best packages to trade for Ben Simmons. And let me tell you, the headlines just went away with that. Sam, is that going to – just look into your crystal ball and let's talk Ben Simmons on the Cavs. Gut reaction, do you like that if it happens?
Well, first of all, yeah, I would like it if you can make the right offer and you know, you're not mortgaging the farm. You'd have to give up quite a bit, but I think it's okay. I'd be okay with that because, first of all, he's a guy who moves the needle.
Yep.
In terms of creating interest. He's 6'10", and we all know he can't shoot from the outside, but he makes up for that so many other ways. He can play. We saw him playing a little bit of power forward early before he got hurt, and he could play a lot of different positions. And you know, if you surround a guy like that, he's obviously an excellent distributor. He's a very good defender.
Mm-hmm.
He's 6'10", and can run the point. That's almost unheard of. So, yeah, he moves you closer to contention. He's a guy you build around, you know, and I just think that those guys are few and far between, you know, and he's an all-star. He does everything, and he's young. You know, I mean, that's the other thing. He's young. Yes, he has some issues. His outside shooting is one. There's no doubt about that. That said, the guy still, you know, can put up 30 a night if he had to, and that's without a very good outside shot, and as well as deliver 10 assists. You know, and he's the one thing I like about him is he is a complete player, a complete star. He does everything pretty well. Nothing like, you know, fabulous like LeBron James, but he does everything well, and he has size, and and can play. You know, he's versatile. So those are the things I like about him. The negatives, obviously, the outside shooting, and the he seems to get injured quite a bit. So those are the two negatives. But I think if you have an opportunity to get a guy like that, and you're able to keep some semblance of either some of your young players, you know, you want to bring them in and run them out there with a bunch of old guys. You want to surround them with shooters, scorers, and I do, you know, I've read some things from Sixers fans after Chris wrote his story, and I posted something about it on the SI site, kind of trying to add a little more detail, like how Ben Simmons has worked out at Garfield Heights High School.
Mm-hmm.
He's represented by Rich Paul, obviously, who is from Cleveland. I don't think he would have any kind of aversion to coming here, especially since, as Fedor wrote in his story, he quoted someone, a league source, who had said, you know, basically Simmons and Embiid excuse me, are never going to be best of friends. It doesn't seem like. So there could be some dissension there, it seems like. And there are people around the league who think that they won't survive together, that it's just not going to work with those two because of their very different personalities and approach. So I think that, you know, if you look at, okay, Ben Simmons becomes available, I think that the Cavs would, number one, jump on it, and number two, they would connect with them because they know that they could offer nice player. I don't want to speculate on who it might be, but you have, you know, Sexton, Garland, Kevin Porter Jr. Now, you know, those are the Jetty. These are guys that could be involved in a package, you know, to Philadelphia. I'm not saying that all of them would be. I'm saying that, you know, those are the names the Sixers would be most interested in. And I wouldn't put it past them to also have an interest in Kevin Love, because you put Embiid and Love and say, the Cavs give you a draft pick or a younger player, and you put those guys together, maybe they're going to work. So there are a lot of different scenarios that the Cavs could offer. Obviously, they have some first round picks here coming up. They've got a lottery pick this year, right? They'll have Milwaukee as well. So they they're going to have first round picks and stuff. So they're one of the few teams that could really put together an enticing package for Simmons if he should become available. And the talk is that he just might. He very well could. I don't think he's going to become available now before the start of next season. I'd be surprised if he does, only because of his knee surgery. The Sixers won't get as good of an offer for him. But I certainly think before next trade deadline, if the Sixers continue to disappoint like they have been this past season, I certainly think that they would make him available and the Cavs would have an enticing package, and it would be something to seriously consider.
Well, I think that could be accelerated depending on how good they do in the playoffs without him and how high the Cavs pick is. I think that really could make some conversations, a little more serious if the Sixers make a deep run and all of a sudden like, oh, we like this identity and we feel confident in really focusing on Embiid, and all the Cavs have this first or second pick. Hey, Altman, let's really talk and make this happen, especially if he goes out there and he's slower, doesn't have as good hop, or isn't the player he was at post-surgery, well, then there goes his value.
Right. Yeah. And there's all kinds of scenarios that could play out. And, like you said, the first key to anything will be if the Sixers are interested in moving him, where is the Cavs pick? Where does that fall? Is it 1 or is it 6? They or anywhere in between, and it can land any place in there.
And you touched on a lot of things in your initial reaction, which I want to get to. And then at the very end, Sam, I want to give us a percentage of what we think this could happen. So we're going to talk about it. We're going to let ourselves dream. We're going to say, hey, this is all that this implies. And then we're going to say, now is it really going to happen? So let's talk about Ben Simmons, the player. He's been overshadowed his whole career by the process, by this team that never really that tried to keep a lot of players happy. As he was figuring things out, they brought in Jimmy Butler, who, that experiment failed. Although if Kawhi misses that shot, who knows what kind of conversation we're having now.
Right. Yeah.
Forget how close they were.
Yeah.
They were to advancing. But nonetheless, here we are. How much of Embiid's immaturity and lack of leadership do you think has made Simmons this kind of like negative? Because I feel like there is this negative like leadership kind of like vibe with him. And I have to believe some of that has to be from Embiid's lack of taking anything serious.
Yeah, I think that definitely plays a role. Those two have very different approaches. It's pretty clear. Embiid has he's more lighthearted, more fun-loving. That's not to paint Simmons as a jerk, because he's not. He's just more kind of a guy who's stays more focused, takes every game really seriously. And I think Embiid takes it seriously. He just doesn't come across that way a lot.
For whatever reason, there is this kind of like stigma.
There's definitely a disconnect between those two. There's no doubt. You can see it.
I would really be interested to see if a franchise that says, Simmons, here's the keys. You're on the marquee. You're the face. You're on the front of the program. We ride or die with you. You can be that LeBron. You can be that Kawhi. You can be that Kevin Durant figure. So here you go. I mean, he's entering into his prime. As you mentioned, he's an elite defender, an elite playmaker. He, an incredible passing vision. And, and you look at the Cavs team, I think Simmons' basement is still higher than any current player ceiling on the Cavs. And that's
I would agree with that. That's right.
that's not to knock any of the Cavs players. I mean, I think I think our roster is really underrated. I think we have a lot of young, talent, and you call them assets. I think Sexton continues to improve, incredibly hard worker, fan favorite. Kevin Porter Jr., the Cavs had mentioned that they would hold on tightest to him in any trade talks. But there hasn't been a player as magnetic or as marketable or as infused with talent since LeBron. And I know since LeBron, it's not like it's been forever, but he's on that kind of like talent conversation of one of the best players in the league. And I think if there's ever a time to trade for a guy like that can move the needle, you have to explore and see what that looks like. We've mentioned a lot of times on the pod, Sam, that in basketball, a lot of times it comes down to who has the best player on the court.
Yes. And
when you have a Ben Simmons on your team, you have an argument of having a best player on the court. And anytime a franchise, you have to be able to jump if one of those guys is available, because they're very few and far between, and they're hard to find. They're hard to draft. You never know. And with Simmons, you know what you have. And when I heard and saw this rumor, I hope the Cavs jump on it, man. I really do. What kind of offer would it realistically take to get Ben Simmons?
I wish I knew. I could see it being some form of, obviously one of the three young guys, and probably your number one pick, and then maybe Love. I don't know if they would want Sexton or Garland. I don't know. My guess is they would want Sexton. They'd want, they'd probably start with Sexton, your top pick, whatever it is, your lottery pick, and then maybe Love. I mean, because they would be in win now mode, and who knows who they would end up drafting. But I certainly think that would be the type of package they would start with, as a Sexton. The Sixers would, a Sexton, a Love, and your lottery pick. And, obviously that would be the starting point. You would always try to negotiate that. And the Cavs would say, give us this guy, maybe one of your end of the bench guys who's young. Maybe they would want Chetty in there. I don't know. I think that Chetty could be had. He's got a really good contract, and he would be a really good player off the bench for them. Mm-hmm. So, I tend to forget about him, but I think that they would probably have some interest in him as well. So, and
this is all without looking at, how much money,
the salaries, if they match, right, and all that. You can make the how NBA GMs negotiate is, here are the three guys I want for this guy. Uh-huh. Now we may have to throw in other players to make the salaries match, but you always start with what you want and who you want in order to pry my guy away. And
best example, TJ Warren, right? He's in Phoenix. Throw him in with cash considerations is to make that trade work.
Right.
Now all of a sudden he's the face of the NBA in the bubble.
He pretty much is. I mean, he's been fantastic. And, there are countless examples of that too. I mean, you look at the Paul George trade that everybody thought,
let's talk about that, because that was a huge trade. Was it 5 first-round picks? Or something
weird like that.
Something outrageous. Has that set the bar for like elite players to be traded, or is that an aberration that we're not going to see again? Like, are the Sixers going to say, hey, if you want our elite player, you have to, this is the starting point?
Yeah, they could say, we want all these draft picks, but which the Cavs have a lot of those. But I also think that they're, if they're going to trade Ben Simmons, it's because they're going to get back at least one veteran player, because it's going to be like the Rockets trading for Westbrook or the Clippers trading for Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. They want somebody back so that it will help them in their quest to win a championship. It's not going to be we're going to go through the process all again.
Mhm.
It's who can help us win now is going to be their mindset.
Okay, so Sam, construct a roster with Ben Simmons at the point forward with our current roster.
Well, it depends on who you're giving up. I think if you have Ben Simmons and Andre Drummond, you're gonna you got to find some shooters, and I don't know that the Cavs have any real dead-eye shooters. We haven't seen Windler yet. We don't know if Garland. We think Garland could be that guy. You're basically restarting what you're trying to build now, and I'm not even sure that they think what we're trying to build now is what we're going to try to move forward with. I think that they're kind of looking at a lot of these young guys, with the exception of maybe Kevin Porter Jr., as guys that we need to move some of these to get a young star.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, who fits that role? Ben Simmons. Now there are other players who are going to become available that may fit that role, but it's hard without knowing what the Cavs would have to give up to get Ben Simmons. It's hard to construct a real roster. I just think. Go ahead.
With an Andre Drummond, aren't we just a poor man's Sixers at that point?
Hey, and that's okay. I mean, look, one thing you have to remember is the NBA is a business,
Mm-hmm.
and you need to sell merchandise. You need to sell tickets when you can put fans in the stands, which I'm assuming will be someday again.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to, sell your ratings, because to advertisers, people are tuning in. People want to advertise with this product. It's a business. We as fans say, take your time, build it the right way, blah blah blah. Dan Gilbert is not saying that. Dan Gilbert's saying, I support the basketball staff, but at some point we need to start winning games, because that's what this business is about. Nobody says, did the Cavs win last night? They or did the Cavs have some nice young players even though they lost last night? The question after the game for most casual fans, and casual fans are where you make your money, are, did the Cavs win last night? That's the question. Did the Cavs win? No, they lost. No, they lost. No, they lost. You get tired of hearing it,
Yeah.
so there's no reason to watch. My wife was a big Cavs supporter until, LeBron left, and she hasn't watched a game since.
Yeah.
She doesn't even know what's going on half the time. Like, are they even playing? Before she knew. So those, I'm not saying that she's the only type of person you market towards, but if you can get those people to watch games, you're making more money. And in order to do that, you have to find some star power somehow, some way, and sooner rather than later.
And Ben Simmons would bring that attention back to the club. The Cavs just missed out on it's not like they haven't tried to get in the lottery to get those players. They missed out on Luka. They missed out on John Morant. They, you know what I mean? They've had these opportunities. Maybe if the gods and luck were in their favor, and we just haven't found that one player that attracts the general population. If you love basketball and a diehard Cavs fan, you're going to be there through thick and thin, no matter what. It
Right.
is those casual fans that tune in. It is that hey, let's go to the game tonight, just on a whim, and Ben Simmons would help attract that. It really would. It is kind of like if no, this is all conjecture, right? Like, we are taking this room and we are just like diving in, man.
We've gotten to the point of no return now. We might as well keep going, right?
Right. You watch teams like the Rockets, like, they have an identity. You watch like the Mavs, they have an identity. These teams, the Raptors, they have an identity. The Pacers, they have an identity. The Cavs are still trying to find their identity.
Right.
Right. Bringing in someone like Ben Simmons is going to it's going to establish an identity that seems like the general NBA, like, it's all about spreading the floor and outside shooting. That's not what Ben Simmons is known for. So, Sam, is there a possibility that by bringing Ben in, it just makes things worse?
I wouldn't think so. For one, you know, you don't have to be all about outside shooting and 3-point shooting to win. Really, in the playoffs, a lot of times that we've seen. Otherwise, the Houston Rockets would win it every year. We've seen that the defensives come a little closer to clamping down on the perimeter. You have to have guys who can create and create very well to win. I mean, we talk about Steph Curry, but he creates a lot for his teammates, and the Warriors do overall. You do need outside shooters. You've needed that since before the 3-point line even came into the NBA. But I wouldn't think that a guy who's, like you said, way better already than anyone on the Cavs is going to make you worse. I think he's going to make you better. And like you said, as we watch the NBA, you generally see you have to have the best player on the floor to give yourself a chance. And right now, today's Cavs rarely have that. They have good players, but usually not the best player on the floor, even as good as Sexton is becoming, and as much as people like him. I compare the Cavs today to kind of like the Grizzlies without Morant. They have some nice players, nice young players, but are you going to go anywhere with those nice young players? Are any of them going to become real stars who move the needle? And I don't think any of them will. I think Sexton has a shot to be an all-star someday, but I don't think that he's going to be the type of guy who's, perennial all-star, who's putting fans in the stands and leading you to a bunch of wins. I think he needs another guy. And I think the Cavs overall know what we're saying. They need us. You need an all-star. You need a perennial all-star to get fans excited and to get yourself some wins and get in the playoffs and put together a good program.
All right, Sam. So what is the percentage that this actually happens, that this comes to fruition, that we see Ben Simmons in a Cavs uniform?
I mean, at this point, I still think it's a long shot. Maybe 10%, but
so you're saying there's a chance?
Yeah, I am. I think there is a chance, but that's all it is a chance. And I think, number one, the Sixers have to actually make him available.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, you're going to hear teams trying to sneak in, and you're going to find out other teams have some assets and all that kind of stuff. So, I definitely think that if they make them available, those odds will go up significantly if it's clear that the Sixers make them available. But right now they have not, and I like you said, you got to let the season play out, see where you stand if you're the Sixers before you can even come close to making that decision.
I'm going to go a little higher than 10%. I think the writing is on the wall that Ben and Embiid cannot coexist, that the Sixers have reached their peak in as far as they can advance. If they really want to continue, then they've got to shake something up. And this is my opinion. And I think they're going to start fielding and looking at offers. And I'm not sure if any other team can offer as an attractive offer as the Cavs with Sexton's development, which isn't to be scoffed at, with the young talent that we could also offer that may be unproven, but also with like the lottery picks and the draft picks. I'm going to say 37% that he's with the Cavs. If he's not the Cavs, my other hunch is that he's out west with LA Lakers, and he and LeBron and AD. That's the three. That's the big.
Well, they already have 6 Rich Paul clients on the team.
Yep.
So you never know.
That's my guess. If he's not with Cleveland, he's in LA, and that's their big three.
That's a pretty precise percentage, 37%.
Yeah,
I was thinking 37.3. Okay.
And 30 seemed too low.
Okay.
5 seemed too contrived. So 37%. I think there's a reality where that happens. I think, he has a chance to be alpha. He has a chance to be that guy. And if you want to be great in the league, at some point you have to have that, opportunity, and you have to say, hey, I'm going to do that and I'm ready. And why not? Why not Ben Simmons and why not us, Sam? I don't know.
Hey, I'm old enough to remember when the Cavs traded for Sean Kemp when nobody thought they could. And
Yep.
he moved the needle. He put fans in the stands and they got to the playoffs.
Put
And
me in the stands, man. I went and saw Sean Kemp in a
yeah,
Cavs jersey.
yeah, yeah. I mean, come on. So that's what this league is about. It's about having a star, an all-star. And again, this isn't intended to downplay the growth and excitement that I see in Colin Sexton and that I think Cavs
No,
fans
not
should
at
have
all.
in him. But
Yeah.
I just, Ben Simmons is on another level. So,
If it doesn't happen, I am still very excited about the young core that we're accumulating with Sexton, with Kevin Porter Jr. I think we saw a lot to be excited about. Sam, we were at that Cavs Pacers game at the end of February, actually Leap
yeah.
Day, and when Kevin Porter Jr. was on the floor, I mean, he made plays, always found the ball, and was exciting to watch. It jumped off the court to me, at least. I know you watched him more in person than I did, and it was encouraging to see him grow and kind of take those steps. I feel like the Cavs didn't play him as much. They kind of just because they knew, where the season was going. But Garland hopefully can stay healthy and continue to develop and gets into a rhythm. So I think there is a lot to be excited about. Like you said, Drummond's back, K Love is there, so it's not like there's no hope. But I don't know. Ben Simmons is just a whole new ball game. Sam, last topic of conversation here. Quarantine. The bubble seems to be working. What is the latest on the Consolation bubble? Are we going to see these other teams play any meaningful basketball before 2021? Before the season in October and November?
It seems like a long shot. Also, I posted something about the report that the players' union wasn't necessarily big on the idea. The latest idea was potentially going down to Disney once this season was over, and going down there for a couple weeks, having some organized practices, basically going down to the bubble, these other 8 teams. And just for a few weeks, a couple weeks, probably having maybe a week's worth of games comparable to summer league games and getting some of these young guys some run. I don't know that that's going to happen now. It doesn't sound like it will. It sounds like perhaps, depending on, the way the virus goes, if the United States is able to get some kind of control on the numbers, then perhaps they will be able to, the Cavs will practice
It's a
at their
big ask,
practice.
Sam. It's a big ask.
Yeah, it sure is. And if they're able to do that, then my guess is there are a couple scenarios. The NBA has outlined 4 scenarios for the start of the season next year. One is early December, which would be real soon after this season ends. I mean, the players would get like a month off before training camp. If that's the case, I don't think there will be any kind of bubble. There's another one that they would be willing to start perhaps Christmas Day, which again, I think they would let the Delete 8 have an opportunity to start training camp earlier, wouldn't force the other teams to do it, but would give, teams like the Cavs and the Pistons and stuff an opportunity to start camp earlier and maybe play some preseason games sooner than the other teams, like within your region, like the Cavs and the Pistons. There's also talk that they could start as on Martin Luther King Day, which would be, I think, January 18th. To me, that almost seems like that, or Christmas seems like the most likely scenario. I would almost say MLK Junior Day would be the time that they would realistically could really start again. And I think there would be, if not a bubble scenario, then again, early training camp for the teams that were not allowed to go to Orlando. The other scenario, the 4th scenario, is playing next season from March to October. And that the only way the NBA will do that scenario is if they feel that if they wait till March, they can get fans back in the arena.
Wow.
If they do that, then of course you're going to get a situation, you're going to feel safe enough where you get a situation where these teams can get in some early run. I think the only way they don't is if, excuse me, if they start it in December. I just don't think you'll be able to get an early run in for these teams that aren't in Orlando.
Well, there you go. Good news, bad news, all sorts of news right there, man. Most importantly, I just want people to be safe. But, man, I do miss seeing the Cavs play basketball. And it is, encouraging that we have no question mark at head coach, that our front office seems to be fairly stable, and that now we're going to hopefully be able to establish some type of identity and culture and start moving in the right direction. Whereas we've just been in this Cleveland Browns cycle, Sam, and that's not fun. Let me tell you, it's having like PTSD over here. Like, then you like Stockholm syndrome yourself, telling you that it's okay and that it's
right.
So that's good. Bickerstaff feeling good about that. For whenever the season begins, we will be right here with your insight, news, and analysis on Cavs on the Break. Sam, it was so great to talk to you. Want to thank you all for downloading and listening to Cavs on the Break NBA podcast. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at Cavs on the Break. We always follow back. Shout out to the Press Play Podcast Network for making this possible. Follow Sam on Twitter at Amico Hoops. Get all of his work and writings on Sports Illustrated. Analysis, players, quotes, interviews, insider info. Do not miss out. Sam, any final thoughts?
Yeah, don't forget the lottery is coming up a week from Thursday. And if the Cavaliers, regardless of where they land, keep in mind that pick very well could be moved, even if it's not in a deal for Ben Simmons, but they could use it, but they could also very well move that and try to get another proven younger veteran. So those are things to keep an eye out on over the next 3 months, I guess. Yeah,
we'll record an episode after the lottery to kind of breaking that down, and just because it's Cavs news and we got to do it, Sam. So
got to do it.
Hey, appreciate you, man. Great to talk to you. Do you want to take us out?
I'm not sure I remember how. You do it this time, and then I'll catch up with it. I don't remember how.
Mike, Breen, take us out!
Congratulations, Cleveland. Your decades-long wait is finally over. The Cavaliers are NBA champions.